And we'll begin in 1 minute. In case you wonder, I know what it says on the screen, but I go by the clock in the back. So in case you're wondering why I'm always looking in the back, I know people have wondered. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Third session year of Brookings City Council. Ask City Clerk to record attendance.
Mayor and council, we are in separate locations this evening, so when I call your name, please respond with present. Bacon?
Present.
Brink?
Present.
Collins? Niemeyer?
Present.
Tilton Byrne? She was having computer issues, so she'll join us momentarily. And Wendell?
Present.
Thank you. Council, first item is approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Seeing none.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Bacon?
Aye.
Brink?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Corbett?
Aye.
Tilton Byrne? I'm assuming she's still having issues.
There are no items removed from the consent. And I'd call on Student Association Finance Chair Sarah Cook to present the SDSU Student Association report. Good evening, Sarah, and welcome.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Sarah Cook, and I'm the finance chair for Students Association. I'm very excited to be here tonight on behalf of SDSU Students Association. And tonight I have the following updates. First, an essay recap from the last 2 weeks. Much of our business this time of year revolves around the legislative session out in Pierre. To this effect, we have passed numerous pieces of legislation in favor of physical improvements to campus facilities. We also, relating to these resolutions, President Dunn was in Pierre this last week to testify on bills relating to SDSU. And then finally, election season continues to accelerate. Petitions for senator races are due this upcoming Friday. The next essay report will happen late in March, following spring break. And this concludes my report. Thank you for your time, and I will stand by with any questions.
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for your time.
All right, this time we open up the public forum and presentations.
Hello, Bradley Walker, resident of Brookings. I'm here to speak about the events at our last council meeting when you failed to advance to phase 4 when after all the trajectories to do that have been met. After the council meeting, I sent all of you an email asking you why you voted to extend the ordinance. I also sent an example of how South Dakota had achieved herd immunity. Mr. Wendell and Mr. Collins responded promptly. Ms. Bacon waited 5 days to respond. At that meeting, she stated that she had traveled to Colorado and everyone wore masks and it was just a normal thing. Then, when you responded to my letter, you stated that your daughter had caught COVID 2 months ago and that you couldn't travel to Denver to take care of her. So I'm a little confused. Did you go or did you not go? And since Colorado has had a mask mandate since July, which I am sure your daughter fully complied with, how could she catch COVID if she wore a mask? And as I stated in my reply to your letter, with data from the CDC at that time, which was a week ago, Colorado had for the last 7 days an average of 20.1 new cases per 100,000 residents. And South Dakota was averaging 17.7 new cases per 100,000. So I'm curious, if masks worked, wouldn't those figures be reversed? Mr. Wendell replied, stating that it was not a fact that South Dakota had obtained herd immunity, despite the chart that I sent him. I replied that since you disputed my example, could you provide proof of the legitimacy of your statement? And since you continue to state that masks work, I asked you to provide facts to back your claim. You have done neither. Myself and many others have emailed and stood here presenting you and the rest of the council with legitimate examples of how masks do not stop a virus, even showing they are detrimental to the health of the wearers. Yet you continue to push your agenda of control. The thresholds were met to advance to stage 4, yet you continued to extend the ordinance. Some data on the masks. On January 12th, Mr. Prezino said in his COVID update that Brookings was 10th out of the 10 most popular cities, counties with most popular cities in active cases, increasing active cases for that week. On February 9th, the Brookings Register reported that Brookings had 6.8 of all the total cases, new cases, statewide. Then on February 14th, your report about the 10 most populous cities in the counties, Brookings was the 9th highest per 7-day average. So this data is showing that your mask mandates is not working. It's not stopping people from catching the virus. It's time to stop the restrictions. They aren't working. It's been months. It's like you're driving a car down the freeway and you get a flat tire. What are you going to do? You're going to go thunk, 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 thunk all the way home? Or are you going to stop and pull over and fix it and get on with your life? This is where we are now. We're just going ka-thunk, 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 ka-thunk. We have used your standards and your restrictions for months now. They're not improving the situation. It's time for new ideas. This stuff is not working. The businesses are suffering. I've been downtown talking to businesses. Many are very frustrated. Also, I believe that the council was asked to provide a report on the economic impact of losing the FFA convention to Rapid City this year because of the COVID restrictions that are in place. I'm curious why this was not mentioned in the last meeting or last 2 meetings during the status report from SDSU. This event has been a staple of our community for over 100 years, and businesses count on the revenue they get from this event. This is just another example of your non-concern for the Brookings business community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to respond with any proof of your,
This is not a
Okay.
back and forth. You get to present, anybody else gets to
okay,
present.
well,
So,
I'm just, my point is, I present you with these facts. You dispute them. If I'm wrong, I'd be glad to see some evidence showing your stuff works. But the data that you provide and that I provide shows that it doesn't. And you're continuing to push them is damaging our community. Thank you.
all right, close the forum. At this time, we'll go into contracts and change orders, and I call on City Engineer Jackie Lanning.
Thank you, City Council, Mayor, and audience at home. This item, Resolution 21-015, is awarding bids for our freight on board asphalt material project. The city held a bid letting on February 16th for this project, and Bose Construction submitted a bid of $74,300, which was about 15% lower than our engineer's estimate. And the decrease was due to oil prices being lower than we had estimated this year or anticipated for this year. And I wanted to point out that the budget for this asphalt material is $70,000. So the street department will just monitor how much tonnage they pick up of this material and make sure they stay within budget. And staff recommends approval of.
Council entertain a motion to approve Resolution 21-015.
So moved. Second.
We have motion and second. Any public comment? Council comments or questions? Bonnie, please call the roll.
Bacon,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
All right, Resolution 21 dash. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. This item is Resolution 21-016, a resolution awarding bids for our 2021 chip seal project. We held a bid letting on February 16th and received 3 very competitive bids at $190,129.40, and it was approximately 9% lower than our engineer's estimate. Again, our oil prices were favorable this year, which was great to see. And this resolution will award the contract to Top Coat, and the area that we're chip sealing is shown on the map that the public can see in our council packet. This project also included striping, which was something new we're adding this year, and that way we can have professionals stripe our collector streets. And staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve. Okay, we'll count that as a motion and a second. Public comment? Council comment? Bonnie, please call the roll.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 21-16 is approved. And continuing on,
Okay, this next item is Resolution 21-017, awarding bids on our Jefferson Avenue Drainage Improvement Project. And this project is located in the Morningside neighborhood It was designed by Banner Associates and includes stormwater infrastructure in the street right-of-way, upgrading our sidewalk ramps, and also some Brookings utilities work on water mains and sanitary sewer. And it was designed to help manage stormwater in the right-of-way instead of through private backyards and side yards. We held a bid letting on February 16th. We received 4 very competitive bids. Bose Construction was the low bid of $1,333,549.50, approximately 2% higher than Banner's estimate, although it is with budget. And just so the city council's aware, this project's being funded with an SRF loan. So the city pays for the project up front, then we submit for reimbursement through the DENR, and then we pay back the loan through our drainage fees. And the loan is being paid back at 2.5% interest over a 20-year time frame. And then Brookings Utilities also pays the city for their share of the project. And staff recommends approval.
okay, thank you. Once again, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Public comment? Council comment? Councilman Niemeyer?
Jackie, we're obviously going to tear the surface and everything up. Are we going to relocate drop inlets then?
Right now in this area, there's all there.
Okay, because it's a really low area. So
Right.
in this whole in this area, Jackie.
Currently, right now it drains, let's see, I don't know if I have a arrow. It drains from Jefferson Avenue, the curved southern portion, and it goes through side yards to the north, and there's some valley gutters between people's homes that are very narrow. So now we'll be intersecting the water in the street and street areas and then adding new trunk line, storm sewer and inlets out in the in lane.
So eventually this water ends up going,
And then eventually
Council, any other questions? Bonnie, please call the roll.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 21-17 is approved. Now I'll call on our IT manager, Don Goff, to speak to Resolution 21-018.
Good evening. When I started here in September, October, I started taking inventory of all of our server equipment, both here and over at the police department. And the inventory that I took was that our server equipment was pretty dated. We've got servers in both the city hall and the police department, of which the software support is pretty much expired here in city hall, and the software support in the PD runs out this year. Our switching equipment is also pretty dated. It's either 10/100 or it's 1 gigabit. And currently the police department is having some issues with their cooling in their server room as well. And we have a 20 megabit connection between here and the police department. What I would recommend and what I'm bringing to you tonight, I'm currently working with Swiftel to put in some 10 gigabit fiber between here in the police department as well as all of our other facilities. I'm looking to incorporate VX Rail, which is an enterprise level software and hardware piece for both buildings, and it would be connected with that 10 gigabit fiber. VX Rail is a hyperconverged infrastructure. It's 5 to 6 nines of reliability. It incorporates future expandability where we can add pretty much anything we want in terms of compute, storage, memory, and we won't have any downtime. I will be able to spin up any type of a new server or anything like that in a matter of minutes. And the support from Dell is mission critical support for up to the next 7 years. In terms of cost, if we continue the status quo and just basically rebuild everything that we currently have with newer equipment, you're looking at a total cost for both buildings of almost $100,000. And that would be basically kind of rebuilding from the ground up because of our infrastructure being so old. What I recommended is the VX Rail is right around $64,000, and that is with maintenance up to 7 years and 3 years, the first 3 years all inclusive. And with that, the savings would be around $35,000 over the first 3 years, with more savings in the energy costs that we would be switching off a lot of old servers that are not very energy efficient. And with that, staff would recommend approval, and I would take any questions you guys may have.
Entertain.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Council, questions? Councilman Wendell?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Brink and I serve on the Joint Powers Board, and we have lots of conversations around technology and ongoing investment needs in this facility. Much of those come through partnership with Brookings County. And your expertise, Mr. Goff, has been really helpful in helping us understand what our priority list should be in terms of joint efforts. Can you talk at all about the impact this might have on decisions Brookings County is making, or if they would be involved in this relationship at all?
They may be interested in connecting their own dark fiber with Swiftel. This would be connecting to our network and not theirs. It'd be for the cost for them, it would be a lot simpler for them to get their own fiber links than it would be to try and chime onto ours. In terms of the server support, what I spec'd out and what I priced out would be for us and for us to be able to grow. Again, you're looking at multiple networks. So then you're looking at how much CPU are you using, how much RAM. It would be doable, but pretty complex. It would be something that we could entertain later if they wanted to add on to our current environment. We have the capability to expand it. But for our needs, for right now, I think this is, just for us, this is what we need to move forward, I think, now.
Councilmember Brink?
I am not an expert in this area, but how would you describe greater efficiencies with this system, or does it help us with extra redundancies or
It-
lessens failure points?
Yeah, it greatly reduces single points of failure. Right now in City Hall, we literally have just physical servers. So if a server goes down, it's down. This, with the hyper-converged infrastructure, it's a 3-node system. You can actually expand it up to, I think, 16 for the system that we've got. We would never need that many. But as long as one node is standing, you wouldn't, as an end user, you wouldn't know it. And in the future, I might look at, even expanding it further, but we will have DR capabilities over to the police department as well if we needed that for a natural disaster, a building disaster, or anything like that.
Sure. And then maybe one more follow-up. You mentioned 7 years for this new system. What was the lifespan of what we're currently operating on, and how have we performed relative to that lifespan?
Most of the lifespan, you can drag a server out. Usually, you can buy support on a standard server for 5 years. They usually come with 3, and then you can extend it. With these are a little higher in terms of reliability, so they'll do 7. Beyond that, you're going to need to get a new system. So, and what Dell recommended was you literally take the old system, you can move it and use it for DR, basically just a second redundant system that sits there and mirrors your data. And then that would be what we would do moving forward 5 years from now or 7 years from now or whatever we got.
Yes.
I'd just like to commend IT for taking a look at our system and not just buying what we traditionally bought. And, we had 2 separate systems. Don and of course our rest of our IT staff went to BMU, our partners, to purchase or to take advantage of dark fiber to increase speeds across all of our facilities or some of these facilities, and then purchase one piece of equipment with redundancy to save us $40,000. So thank you, Don, for that. That's just in 4 or 5 short months. So excited to see what you'll do for the rest of the years you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bonnie, please call roll.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Resolution 21-8. City manager said, thanks for your work on this. Okay, get into ordinance first readings. First one's introduction of ordinance 21-003, and Susan Rodert and Brianna Dorn. You're going to come up, or somebody is. But you're sending her up, okay. Brianna, if you want to introduce yourself in case nobody does know you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me speak today. My name is Brianna Doran, and I am the current chair for the Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities. And we are presenting the idea to change to the Brookings Disability Awareness Committee. We submitted a memo with a bit more information, but I'll explain why we are advocating for this change. The committee strives to advocate for the rights of people in our community who have disabilities. Throughout the year, specific events are held to bring awareness and information created to provide a framework for community-based advocacy and the removal of mobility and attitudinal barriers faced by individuals with disabilities. The committee's purpose directly corresponds to the city's goal to provide a high quality of life for its citizens. And you can see we would like to move to a more modern, user-friendly committee name to bring forward the true mission of awareness to the citizens and businesses in the city of Brookings on changes or improvements that can be made to give easy access to public and employer spaces, help employers and employees or potential employees come together to make a more equitable and accessible Brookings for all who live here. So this would help us in our branding. It just rolls off the tongue easier when people are talking about us, so it would help create awareness of our committee in the public, and it moves to a more modern and upkeeps our language. So I'll stand by for any questions, but we would like to move forward with this new name.
We should mention it's the first reading, so we won't take a vote on it, but anybody have comments or questions? And Councilman Wendell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick comment. About 18 months ago, when there was some turnover in the committee, I had an opportunity to meet with a number of committee members and learned much more about the real work of this committee and their mission. And I think this name and the language you're proposing aligns much better with the work that you're doing. I do think it's a more modern approach. And so I commend you for taking the time to to think about how we could change the language we use to better align with the mission and the work that you're doing. It was educational for me at the time, and I think I think this shift will help broaden the awareness of the work you're actually doing, which is a bit broader based than folks might realize it is.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilman Bacon?
Just another quick. I agree with what Nick said. I thank you all for the work that you do. A lot of people don't understand everything that you do to work with this demographic in our community and make sure that their rights are protected. And so we thank you for that. But also, I very much approve of modernizing your name.
Thank you. I just want to say that we did understand why it was named the Committee for People of Disabilities because of that people first language, and we do understand the importance of that and recognize that. So we did not dismiss that when we looked at our new name.
Council, any other questions or comments? Well, we'll have a second reading on March 9th. Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you.
And next, we'll talk about ordinance 21-005 and CFO Eric Rangel.
Good evening. The following ordinance is requesting approval for the supplemental appropriation number 2 to the 2021 budget, and it consists of 3 parts. Part 1 is a carry forward, which are the unspent funds from 2020's budget. Most of these funds were cut due to COVID or because of timing, we weren't able to finish them this year. So in the table, we can see that the general fund will add $308,000. The CIP fund will be $1.5 million. South Main project, $22,000. The airport, $388,000. The Edgebrook golf course would be $20,000. And 2 items that are not in this table, but that we're also requesting to carry forward is the Bob Sheldon CIP project, $133,000, and the overpass for $4.5 million. The second part of this ordinance are the items that were not budgeted initially because we were preparing for a rough 2021, but we would, the staff is proposing to fund them because these are priority items now that we know a little bit better where we stand. These would also be funded from the surplus from the 2020 budget. The items added would add $432,000 to the general fund and $55,000 to the CIP. Additional detail on the individual items that make up these amounts can be found in the body of the ordinance, in the document of the ordinance. It's actually the appendix, I'm sorry. So do you have any questions on this part 1 and part 2 that I could answer?
Question? Councilman Brink?
Maybe high level, do you recollect which projects in particular the CIP amounts are coming from?
Yes, so right here, so a big part of that is the buildings fund that we have to roll over. Remember, we established a building that's $466,000 that we carry forward to have this year in case something breaks. That's our risk fund. Another big one is the park and rec improvements for $142,000. It's a grant match for $50,000, and for the parks master plan, $92,000 that was approved last year, but the big chunk of it is going to be planned for this year. We have $75,000 for bike lane improvements, $95,000 from a fire truck that wasn't delivered last year that will be delivered this year. $250 for street cover and gutter work. This is mostly work that was cut due to COVID and we're planning on doing this year. We have $392,000 for traffic signals that will be constructed in 2021. Those are the main items for the CIP.
Thank you.
Other questions, Council? Okay.
All right. And then part 3 is just moving from the engineering budget into the public work department budget. There's no incremental impact. I would like to talk a little bit more about the financial consideration for these amendments. So we're currently estimating that the 2020 surplus for the general fund will be around $3.7 million in 2020, and this includes the COVID federal relief funds received. The CIP funds is currently estimated to end the year at $3.1 million surplus. It is important to note that these estimates are not final, and they will be finalized once we conduct our financial audit, which is estimated to wrap up at the end of May. With that, we have the funds to fund these projects, and the remaining funds would be for you to decide in your city council priority funding projects, and we'll review that next session in the CFO report. That said, I'd like to entertain any questions you may have.
Any public comment? Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Rangel.
you.
And we'll have a second reading on March 9th. Next, we get into public hearings and second readings, and call on City Engineer Jackie Lanning again.
Thank you. This item is ordinance 21-004 related to the speed limit on 20th Street South. And we had our first reading, we had some discussion on the street construction on 20th Street South was completed in 2020, and we widened the roadway, added street lights along the corridor. And the speed limit had previously been 35 miles an hour between Main Avenue and Western Avenue, and then it was reduced in 2015 when Dakota Prairie School opened. And then now that the street was reconstructed, we did a traffic study to find out what our current speeds are. And what I did since the last meeting, there was some discussion about what are we seeing now that that new apartment complex is open on 20th Street South, just west of Main Avenue. So we put our our radar camera on the location just west of Main Avenue. And it was between the apartment driveway and Main Avenue. And I wanted to show some data here so everybody understands how we come to some conclusions and for our recommendations. So in September, between September and October, we did our radar study, and we had about 2,500 vehicles per day. We were looking at it between Council Ridge and Half Moon area, and that eastbound 85th percentile was 36 miles per hour, and the westbound 85th percentile was 37 miles per hour. And then we did the same speed study in October, and we put the radar west of Western Avenue. And there, our ADT was lower. We had about 1,200 vehicles per day, and we put it out there for about a week for that whole time. So this averages that week of time. And our eastbound 85th percentile was 37 miles per hour, and then westbound was 39 miles per hour. And this last weekend, we couldn't put the radar out when it was below zero, so we had to wait till Saturday morning with our temperatures being favorable. So what we saw this last weekend, our ADT was about 2148 per day, just for that 2-day average. And our eastbound traffic was about 35 miles per hour for the 85th percentile, and then westbound 37 miles per hour. And so in my world, I guess what we would reach is a conclusion that most people are already driving near that 35 miles per hour, whether it's signed 25 miles per hour or not. And this just shows you what we're seeing for those typical 85th percentile speeds at different points in time. And I wondered if that was helpful or if there were still some questions that we could answer.
Questions? None? Oh. Well, you have to come up to the mic.
So, saying is that you're saying if people are comfortable with driving 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, roughly, it's okay. And so if I want to drive down, say, 22nd Avenue at 45 miles an hour because I'm comfortable for doing that, is that okay too? I mean, to me, what you should do is you should put a police officer in that 25 miles an hour zone and start writing tickets. You want to increase revenue for the city? That's a good way to do it. Because I'm not sure what the capacity of how much capacity is filled in that apartment complex, judging by the cars in the parking lot when I drive by, maybe it's a quarter. So I can't remember how many units are in there. But if you increase that, you're just gonna increase more cars. And especially from that one 300-foot section west of Main to entering or exiting that apartment complex, you're talking about a traffic jam and congestion, which would justify the lower speed limit. Yes, once you get past Western Avenue, it's free and clear, and granted, you're gonna be putting more houses out there, but that's down the road. What I'm saying is you're getting all this congestion right in that one little area, and you're saying it's okay for people to just whip in and out and do whatever they want. Just like driving down 6th Street, where you have all these new, all redone, but the speed limit still remains 30 miles an hour. It's a new, brand new street. I'm comfortable driving 40 miles an hour or 45 through there. But, we do the speed limit because that's what it's set at. I don't think that, like I said, instead of raising the speed limit, why don't you enforce the current speed limit that's already there? That's all my 2 cents.
I'd be more than happy to answer Mr. Walker's question. He actually asked a very common question that we get here in the community. Why are speed limits certain rates at certain streets? The reality is we engineer streets for people to safely drive at certain speeds. And we have collector streets, arterial streets, and neighborhood streets, all of which we have different speed limits on. So with this street, we re-engineered it, we redesigned it to fill with capacity and to drive at that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And therefore, people are feeling comfortable driving at that 35 mile an hour, and it's safe enough. Now, the key here is as we continue to develop in that area, we have code and policy to determine where we put in those entrance points, because you won't see one constantly on collector streets. We put them specifically in certain areas to avoid that interaction of other cars and people. So there's a whole art and science behind it. But it's a great question because often people want to know. And if you look at the information that Jackie just showed, Jake, if you can go back one, please. You look at the average, and most people would say 31. The reality is we put the speed limit according to the 85th percentile, and there's a whole science behind that 85th percentile. And I'm sure Jackie could talk more about it at a future session, but realistically, it's all about what this council and this community wants as far as collectors are made to get people to the arterials. Arterials are made to get people out to their areas. And so they're designed for certain speeds. So great question. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of answer to your question.
Okay, anybody else, public comment? Council entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments or questions? Councilman Wendell?
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Tilton Burn.
My question is for Jackie. I'm wondering, you had mentioned that we had the camera radar set up to do that study that you just presented. Have we placed one of the radar signs there that shows drivers what their speed is? I've noticed that a lot of times when we put those up, it actually slows folks down to the speed that is set for whatever the street is that they're driving on. Have we had one of those signs in this particular space?
Chief Erickson will respond. I don't believe we had put one on 20th Street South since it was open, but perhaps you know.
Not since the reopening after the construction. We had one there prior to the construction for westbound traffic.
Thank you. If the speed limit change does not pass this evening, I would definitely recommend that we put one of those signs there again since this construction has taken place, because I do agree that if the speed of a road is set to a certain limit, then just setting the speed to what folks tend to be driving isn't necessarily the answer, I guess, in my mind, but perhaps encouraging folks to drive the actual limit that's posted.
Now, Councilman Wendell, question?
Thank you, Mayor Corbett. I guess the first note I would make is just recognizing this, and Jodell, you may want to get this. Mr. Walker and I think, agree on this topic. I actually, I agree with you that I'm not certain it's good to apply logic, the logic that we should let drivers kind of set our speed limits according to the speed they're driving. I understand that's not exactly what's happening here. I actually really appreciate the way Paul walked through the strategic approach we take and the engineering approach we take to defining arterial and collector streets. I do think this one may be an outlier for some of the reasons I touched on last week, the way it kind of drives a spine between two residential neighborhoods. After our conversation last week, I spent a little bit more time on that street, and I still would be concerned about increasing the speed limit. And for that reason, I'll vote no on increasing the speed limit, but I do really appreciate the second look you took at this and the information you provided to us. And I do think the strategy that we use typically to apply speed limits to certain streets makes good sense. I just think in this particular case, this street in this stretch feels like an outlier to me.
Councilman Niemeyer?
Sorry. I called Chief earlier today and asked him to explain a little bit on this, and if we had seen any issues in the past, and the signage is there for student crosswalk, that kind of thing. He kind of explained a little bit more. Could you kind of explain what you had said to me today, Dave?
Sure. And it is signed, in fact, for eastbound traffic, there are 2 pedestrian crosswalk warning signs there as you crest the hill traveling eastbound. Likewise, when you're cresting that hill, understand is lower than it was prior to the construction project. That there isn't as much of a blind spot as there was in the past. Cresting that hill, there is sufficient, at 35 miles per hour, sufficient distance and time for reaction to come to a complete stop if there happened to be a pedestrian crossing the street at that point in time.
Okay, so with that being said, you can look into this, but I would suggest that on those crosswalk signs, if we can have the flashing lights like we have in the 4-way stop that's down on 32nd and South Main, is that something we could put there just as an attention getter to remind people that there might be children walking across? Is that something that might be cost ineffective?
Top of my head, how much they're similar to the stop signs. We had looked into that last year with another request in town. There's 2 different types of blinking signs. You can have the yellow diamond that blinks 24 hours a day. It just always blinks like those stop signs. And they do make, and I think those were $3,000 maybe per intersection. I can't recall if that's for 4 of them or just 2.
Are
And they
those
also
solar-
make a sign.
I'm breaking into you, Jack. Are those solar? Okay.
Right. Where you can push the button and then it blinks. But those are a lot more expensive. I think they were 20 or 30,000, but they are solar as well. So a couple different varieties there if you want to get into blinking signs.
Staff could also, if council approves it, not approve it, we could also continue to monitor this area and do studies of it. That's always an option. What's nice is this last year, we actually bought this piece of equipment that allows it to put it on any street we want to monitor and figure out what are the average speeds. We can even find out what time of day the fastest speeders are going to make better use of Dave's staffing power. So there are opportunities to continue to monitor this if council should choose in the future as well.
Councilmember Bacon?
Mayor Corbett, conversation that when it's been monitored, are we monitoring that school zone real closely? And do we know how much pedestrian traffic crosses that street at those times of day or any other time?
On that crosswalk since the street had opened, so we haven't done that. We do have a camera. We have 2 different types of equipment. This is the radar equipment for the speeds and the daily traffic numbers. And then we also have a camera system, we can check for the numbers of crosswalks, and then that you've kind of manually watched the video. We can check for that in the spring as well.
Well, I think it would, concern is I don't even want that one child to get hit because somebody was going too fast and not paying attention to the fact they were coming into a school zone. So I'd rather spend the money on a flashing sign if that could increase the odds of safety in that area. I'm not interested in increasing the speed limit, but I don't have a huge passion against it either, so.
Anybody else?
So I went back and forth on this for a while, decided if I was going to say yes or no, and got a couple of emails from some people, and they actually changed my mind. I'm really concerned about the crosswalk there and the speed that cars are going. I don't want anybody to get hurt. It seems like it's been pretty clear for quite a while. Is that right, Dave? There's
Yes.
no accidents. So,
No
yeah.
accidents.
Okay.
Likewise, further to the east on 20th Street South, we think of places like 17th Avenue. And just north of there, there's the two schools that are accessed. The opportunity for civilian pedestrian traffic going across that intersection as well. In that area, the street is 35 miles an hour
Yeah.
existing. So comparing it to the rest of that stretch from east to west city limits is kind of what we looked at.
Okay. Seems more like, a lot of houses are going up there and they're going to continue to go up there. So my concern is the safety and just that crosswalk. If we can put the lights up there somehow, I think that'd be great. But I'll be voting no for the speed limit today.
Any other comments? Oh, Councilmember Brink.
I think it's one of those truisms about driving that the only way to make it 100% safe is for nobody to ever do it ever, right? And so every amount of driving is some level of risk, and so we have to balance those risks, right? And so I think it's been helpful tonight to have this conversation about how this data came to us, because I don't think it's the case that we're saying 85% of people are going this speed, so that's how we set it. I think Paul's example was quite right here. But for me, as I looked at this, and I've lived out west of that area, so I know the traffic patterns, but I feel like staff recommended it. They have reasons that they articulated. It's consistent with our strategy, passed the traffic safety committee, and it's consistent with the road in that area. So for me, I would trust staff's judgment on this.
Any other comments? Bonnie, please call the roll.
Collins,
No.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
No?
Wendell,
No.
Bacon,
No.
Brink,
Aye.
Okay. The ordinance 21-004 is defeated. Thank you both for your work on this.
Yeah, one of the things that we might end up having to bring back to council is a discussion on when and where we should look at this. Because we just spent quite a bit of money on upgrading this street, and this street design was created to go 35. And so if council has a desire to slow speeds in neighborhoods, which is great, if that's the desire, it'd be nice to have that discussion up front so we design it properly for that speed that we expect to get. And so we should probably have that discussion in the future as well, just so that we're spending the money appropriately.
Good point. Okay, Community Development Director. Oh,
Can I ask a
Councilman Wendell.
follow-up question?
Go ahead.
I want to make sure I understand this. It would seem to me that we'd be designing the street for more than just the speed, though, right? I mean, it's traffic patterns, it's understanding the development in that area. That wouldn't be the only factor in the way that street was designed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's going to be multiple factors, but if the desire is to have slower speeds, then there's certain ways you can design roads to accomplish that through engineering. Street widths would be a great example, and then other amenities and improvements you can make.
Sure. I just didn't want to leave that hanging out there. I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify
Good
that.
point. Okay, Community Development Director Mike Struck. We're in other business right now.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and members of the audience. Asking for action on a revised preliminary plat for 4 lots in Block 18 of the Prairie Hills Edition. It's kind of at the intersection of Main Avenue South and 32nd Street South. It was previously preliminary platted into 3 lots. Approached the developer, is interested in a small lot, and it's been located in the southeast corner. If we can go to the next slide. It's a really, really tiny, roughly 2,600 square foot lot. There was a hiccup in that on your preliminary plat, you'll see there's a 1-foot no access easement, which we typically place along arterial streets to limit access and really force them to do shared access points or something such as is shown there. Unfortunately, this utility needs direct access to that small little corner. And so with the previous preliminary plat, it had the no access easement. The only way to comply is we had to take it back through the planning commission and through the city council to remove that on that one little corner there. It's a good location for this particular use. They need 24/7 access in case of emergencies, but once constructed, they may only stop in there weekly or monthly just to do a quick service on the equipment that is there, and it's not something that would be heavily used, but they do want direct access. Planning Commission did recommend 7-0 to approve, and I would stand for any questions that you may have.
Entertain.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Council comments or questions? Public comments or questions? Bonnie, please call the roll. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Okay, preliminary plats are approved. Now, City of Brookings progress report by Assistant City Manager Jake Meschke.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the February 2021 progress report. We'll start off with our favorite project, which is the 20th Street interchange. Since our last one, it was just that evening of the last progress report when we broke the news about the finding of no significant impact. That is a great success for us in this project, and it's been posted to the website, which again takes into consideration the comments that had been provided and received by members of the public. Our next steps, we are currently in landowner meetings and offers in approximately March. Land appraisals are being prepared as we speak. The 95% cost estimate will be presented to City Council and the County Commission in early March as well. And then looking forward to bidding this project in fall of '21 and then moving into construction between 2022 and 2023. The Public Information Office for the City of Brookings did a COVID-19 community survey to learn about experiences, concerns, and access to resources. It was distributed both via hard copy in the mail as well as available online. Nearly 2,000 residents did participate in this survey. A few of the highlights are presented before you, but I think one of the biggest ones to highlight tonight is that nearly 93% of our residents who took this survey felt that they were receiving all the information necessary on COVID-19, as well as how to slow the spread, speaking to the success of some of the marketing and engagement efforts that we have taken on as a community, with the city as well as our community partners. Excited to announce a partnership and collaboration between the city and South Dakota State University. We're looking at doing a native landscape initiative. SDSU actually has funds available to provide the plants themselves, and we're partnering with their department to look at areas where we can incorporate those on city property. So a few areas are currently in the works, but we're looking at some parkland as well as that drainage area that's located by the new parking lot at this building to the south side. Some of the different plants will be incorporated will benefit from a stormwater management perspective, as well as pollinators, and then of course decreasing maintenance over time as they are native and they don't require as much mowing and maintenance that your grasses and other things would require. So this is a great partnership between the city and SDSU as we continue to try to engage the university in different operations that we have. Some may be aware that an election is nearly among us. We have municipal election positions available this year. One mayor position, that's a 3-year term, and 2 city council members up for election. Those are 3-year terms. The filing date actually aligns with SDSU, I believe, in that they are due this Friday by 5 p.m. Election day itself will be on April 13th, 2021. If anyone would like more information on the upcoming municipal election, they can go to our city website, select the government tab from the top, and there is an entire page dedicated to the elections. The city had launched a geographic information system mapping tool. This is utilized both internally for us to do a number of different analyses, but we've also launched a public component to that as well. So for anyone who isn't familiar, geographic information system really combines mapping tools with data management analysis. It kind of provides that visual and spatial component which can aid in the learning and education process to actually have that visual in front of you. Some of the benefits of this are greater access for public information. It does provide that visual component. It really provides a different way to look, or another way to look at our community, neighborhoods, and services. There are a number of maps that are currently available. Some of those include recreation trails, beta bus stops, future land use, historic districts, city parks, zoning, and even the garbage collection schedule. For any of our members of the public that would like to check out some of these maps that are available and interactive, go to our website, and then the Community and Visitors tab across the top, and then select the City Maps icon. We are currently in the process of completing some of our approved 2021 budgeted expenses. One of the key ones being some new squads for our police department. They're looking at 3 different vehicles this year. 2 of them will be for patrol, a sedan and an SUV, as well as 1 for investigations, 1 SUV that is a Chevy Tahoe. Last year, you may recall, we were somewhat delayed receiving our squads due to COVID-19, but this year, Chief Erickson is well ahead of the game. We are expecting delivery 1 late this February and then early March, so those vehicles will be forthcoming. Lastly, with the Swiftel Center, they did host the Trico Dart Tournament in accordance with their safety and health program that they've been running. They did have about 1,700 attendees between January 22nd and to 24th. The Swiftel Center is also particularly proud of their wedding tastings that they've been hosting. During a wedding tasting, the coordinator will meet with the couple and their parents to try their top menu items, make selections, and go through all their wedding details. It's meant to be a fun and personal experience for the couple to make their crucial decisions at one time with their coordinator. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Easy, Jake.
Thank you.
All right, City Manager, COVID-19 update.
Thanks, Mayor, City Council members. Brookings currently has 66 active cases. We now have 36 deaths in Brookings from COVID-19. This is an increase of 3 since my last report. There have been 3,566 positive cases in Brookings County and approximately 3,464 cases that have recovered. According to the hospital's most current dashboard, the 7-day rolling percentage of positive is 5.3, which is a decrease. I know we've been asked a number of times, what is the discrepancy between the numbers we use and the numbers that are shown on the State Department of Health website. What we utilize are numbers that are given to us from the health department, or from our hospital and our professionals in the health profession here, which are more accurate for our community. And so hopefully that sheds a little light on that question that is asked quite often. This percentage within the Brookings Hospital, we do have 2 that are occupying beds. And Brookings County is still currently in substantial community spread. As a state, South Dakota has 1,938 active cases, and there are 91 currently hospitalized, which is also a decrease from the last report. The state has lost 1,863 lives. The mask mandate for all indoor businesses and public places was renewed and is in effect until April 10th. In March, staff will place the ordinance on the work session for council discussion. Approximately 1,661 people have received the first dose, and 1,602 people have received the second dose here in Brookings. Since March 2020, the point of dispensing, often called the pod group, has been diligently working to put plans in place should we ever have mass vaccination available here in Brookings County. That day will be coming shortly, and a large group vaccination will occur. I'm proud to announce that a lot of our staff members and partners throughout the community have risen to the challenge to ensure that we can dispense, I believe, up to 1,000 vaccinations. I encourage people at home who are watching this to continue to watch and monitor the city and the hospital's press releases for more information on continued mass vaccination. That's all I have for the report, Mayor.
Okay. Comments, questions? About 1,000 happy people in Brookings, I think, that have gotten signed up for Thursday, right, Patty? I'm with you. Okay, council, looking ahead to March 9th, the next meeting, and we'll have a resolution declaring surplus property, the SDSU Student Association report, and 2020 year-end, or full year, CFO report, and then Disability Committee name change, and a budget amendment number 2. Anything I didn't mention you'd like to see upcoming? Councilmember Brink?
Just a clarifying question. Paul, did you say we're already set for our study session to have COVID thresholds be a discussion topic, or do we need a motion for that? We're good? Okay,
Yes, staff has already placed it on the work session.
okay, thank you.
One thing that council will have to make a determination, not right now, but at least by the next meeting, is the process, because the ordinance currently will expire April 10th. So we have 2 meetings in March, and third, if you include the work session. So timing is going to be critical on that ordinance if you renew it or if you change it, how that occurs.
Legal question, what is the reason for the 60 days every time we pass this ordinance? Can we shorten that to 30? Is that an option?
We could shorten it. The emergency ordinances cannot exceed 60 days in duration.
So we're just maxing it out every time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? To adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.